Mike LaRosa, Nicole Eichenberg, how the hell are you guys?
Doing great,
Doing pretty
Jesse.
well.
Glad to
I
be
had
here.
I had both COVID vaccinations, so I'm good to go.
Oh,
Oh
nice.
man, that's awesome.
Thanks.
Like in
Great.
2 weeks, you
You.
can like start making out with people and everything.
Just start making out with random people on the street.
No, I think it's gonna be a thing. Like people are gonna start wearing shirts that say like I'm vaccinated, and like when two vaccinated people cross in the street, they're just like, oh, they get out all of the hugs and kisses that they had to hold in for the
I
last
saw
10
like
years.
I saw like an opinion piece the other day, and it was just like social scientists predict the new Roaring Twenties once the pandemic is over, and everybody's just going wild with each other.
That's gonna be how I get arrested for like hugging and kissing random people on the street.
The guys and girls will be like, she was cute, yeah, but still, it was a violation.
Yeah. You'll be like, take off my shirt if you're gonna be kissing random people on the street
Right?
getting arrested. Yeah.
Oh man. So we're here today because let's I'm gonna let you guys introduce. So I'm gonna say like a little bit about you, and then you go ahead and correct everything that I said, and maybe say it a little bit better to introduce you guys. So I'm gonna start with Nicole. Nicole Eichenberg. I probably pronounced the name wrong.
You got it.
Is a local comic, and she is hilarious, and she is also co-host of a podcast that's kind of on hiatus right now. The podcast is coming from inside the house that she co-hosts with me, and she does some production work behind the scenes for Capital Puns or Cap Punishment, and she's an all-around cool girl and close personal friend of mine. Nicole.
Aww, thank you. I also co-host Really Listen, which we're trying to bring back to stab streaming. I'm a little free library steward. That's about it. I'm a healthcare worker during the day, which is how I got both vaccinations. That's about it.
Right on. Mike LaRosa, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, is one of the people behind the bar at the Sacramento Comedy Spot. He is also a cast member of You the Musical. I'm sure he was at one time on Harold and Gordon. Were you a member of Riot?
No, but I used to do a show with Riot. I was on a team called Super Cosmonaut.
That's what it was.
Oh,
Okay.
We were formed like the same way that Riot was formed, about a year after they were formed, and they got added onto their show. But at this time, technically I'm just on You the Musical, but that's not really happening right now.
Mike LaRosa, let me tell you a Jesse Rivera fanboy story of that. It was so much fun to watch you get so good at You the Musical, because I think I somehow went to like the first rehearsal that you were rehearsing with them with, like you and Allison.
Yeah.
And I saw you. Okay, so like before that, I had seen you be like every time you were on stage, you were great, but you were in your comfort zone. You were in your element. But now you were doing like You the Musical, and you were being challenged, and it wasn't always easy for you the way I think improv had not. I'm not saying it was easy for you before, but you were comfortable with it. So seeing you join You the Musical, have to work really hard at it, see you struggle with it a bit, and then like 3, 4, 5 shows later, I went and watched, and you were just like, wow, like you were just boom. I was in the audience the night that. How did they pick the theme for You the Musical? What is asked of the audience?
The audience just makes up a title for a one-act musical, and then we just take that title and just completely improvise it right after they give us the title.
Tell me if I have it right. One night, the audience suggested a title with Tom Cruise. And there was like, oh, Mike is about to rise to greatness.
Well, okay, here's the thing about that. So for those unfamiliar with me as a person, I have this like completely earnest, unironic appreciation for Tom Cruise and his career, and maybe not his social life, but his career. And the title we were given for that show was actually just Scientology.
Oh, that's what it was.
And I felt a bunch of eyes go to me. It's like, well, okay, look, not everybody in this room knows about my appreciation for Tom Cruise. I'm not going to just take this show and make it about my weird thing that like 10% of the audience will get.
But he did.
No, I didn't. I did not. Because I actually initiated that show. So I started the opening scene and I was like, okay, I'm not going to make this about Tom Cruise. Like, because I have to work with my team, like I have to make sure that everybody can like play at a level where we all kind of like have a shared understanding of something. So I was just like, we'll just make it about like recruitments into like schools of thought, like Scientology or whatever. So I started the opening scene and I basically started at like the opening scene of Book of Mormon, if you're familiar with that, where they're kind of like going door to door. So it was just about Scientology and it was just kind of like, like, have you ever felt lost? Have you ever felt confused? Like, we can help you. We're Scientology. And so like that was the opening scene. And then the very next scene, somebody else initiates and they walk in and they're just like, I am the head of Scientology, blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, let's get Tom Cruise in here. And I was just like,
that's where it was. Okay.
And I actually waited. I waited a beat to see if anybody else would step out, and they were all just looking at me, and I'm like,
but again, all eyes went right to you. They're like, yes, it's his moment.
Yeah, and then I was like, okay, like in my head, I'm like, okay, like I wasn't gonna make it be about this, but if you all want it to be about this, we're gonna do this.
So why Tom Cruise? I'm curious.
Okay.
Wait, I'm gonna say it. It was his muscles in The Outsiders.
I think a very formative experience for me in terms of like my appreciation of movies in general, which really ties into our topic today, which we haven't even gotten into, but I'm sure Jesse will introduce at some point. When I first saw Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol at the IMAX theater, it wasn't the first Tom Cruise movie I'd seen. It wasn't the first like Mission Impossible I'd seen, but something about like the visceral, raw experience of seeing a movie like that, built for that huge screen, built for that huge sound system, and just seeing him do all those insane stunts. Like I was just completely hooked. And I think that sort of started like the appreciation for Tom Cruise. At first it was very ironic, but at a certain point you just have to realize like, no, I think I just really appreciate what this guy's doing.
That's awesome. And if I could just backtrack a little bit to the story you just told, because I want to point something out that you said that is like, because like I did improv and then I eventually did comedy, and the reason what Mike said in his story was when he said that he knew that he had to make it something that the whole team was going to be able to shine on and not just him. That's why I wasn't a good improviser. That's why like I think I was made more for stand-up, because I can be funny, and Brian's told me I have great timing. But Brian Crawl also once told me there's never a time when you're on stage where you're not Jesse. You're just like, you're never not Jesse. Like, and I still can't see that separation. This is like after my third tryout. And then, but that's why you're a great improviser, Mike, because you know those rules, right? Like there's like improv is a science. It's a school. It's like you do it. If you do this and you do this and you do this and you do this, it's gonna work, But if you only do this and you don't do this and you never try to get better at this, then you get me.
But the funny thing is like it's almost like speaking another language, like you really have to, and there are different ways to teach and learn improv. So like you say that I'm a great improviser and I really appreciate that. If I walked into some other club with people I don't know, with people who have had different training, we wouldn't necessarily vibe, like maybe it's like Spanish and Italian, like they're kind of mutually intelligible, but you could like maybe get through it, but you're not going to have that same level of understanding with each
Right,
other.
because it's not the Sacramento comedy spot way of improv. It's the UCB way of improv, or it's the Groundlings way of improv, right? It's like that's not how they do. It's not how they do it here.
And I mean, the best compliment we ever get after shows is when somebody says like, okay, but like, I know you guys were like improvising some of that, but like how much of that was planned? And it's because like, if you don't speak the language, you're not able to see all of like the things that we're doing on stage that are just handing the other people like, here are some instructions, but like if you don't know like how the sauce is made, then like you can't see all of the things that we're just straight up telling each other without saying it out loud.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Just gonna touch one note real quick when you say that, like how afterwards there's like people in the audience like they're doubtful. I was like, there's no way, dude. The Hypothetics in one of their last shows made me doubt that it was improvised because it was so freaking good, and I was like, you guys had to have like kind of practiced the dance just in case it ever came in. They're like, come on, dude.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a great team because they really are just a perfect example of that team that bonds together socially so well that it just comes across in this unspoken energy they have with each other.
Yes, that unspoken energy, right? Like that intuition that you have with the teammate. Man, that's great stuff. I could talk improv all day, folks, but
I couldn't, as you
yeah,
can tell.
Nicole's like, all right, yeah, no, they do make it up. But I picked you two because like I know that like one of the things that during this whole time is like, fuck, I miss going to the movie. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and she said, what I wouldn't give to be sitting in a fucking theater with some shitty popcorn right now and watching I don't care what. I know you guys love movies as much as I love movies, and I love not only the movie, I love the theater, I love the seat, I love the shitty popcorn. I love sneaking in my own coffee. I love just the whole experience, and I think you guys are the same way, right, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually wasn't really like a huge movie theater guy growing up because my family wasn't super into going to the movies. So I think when I was in college was when my friends and I first started going to the theater a lot. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to hog the whole time with this, but like, yeah, I started to like really realize that I wanted to sort of like appreciate all different kinds of things, even if I wasn't like, I mean, this movie's gonna be the best, this movie's gonna be the worst. Like, I just wanted to like experience a bunch of things and have opinions on it, you know?
Nicole, how about you? How far back does it go?
I actually didn't watch much TV or movies as a kid, and actually, I've only really been watching new movies like since I've been doing stand-up, and especially since hanging out with you, because I know we were seeing like most of the big ones that came out in the theater for a while.
Yeah, and
And I do miss that.
I do listen. Do you guys remember what's the last movie you saw in the theater? I remember. I couldn't remember, and I had to go through my emails and search my Fandango receipts. And then I searched. Then after I found my Fandango receipts, I did like a search in my messages to see who I sent a message to about that movie, and I found it was my friend Teresa. So the last movie I saw was on January 24th with my buddy Teresa, and we watched The Gentleman with Matthew McConaughey,
Nice.
which is a pretty good movie to see in the theater.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, Mike, do you remember what was the last thing you saw?
I do vividly. I don't remember the exact date, but it was like the Sunday night before everything went into lockdown. Like I was right up to the edge there. It was The Invisible Man, which I really, really like. It's one of my favorite movies of last year. What's funny is, like I said, it was a Sunday night. It was like, I was kind of like wanting to do something. I had work the next day. It was kind of too late to like get something going with friends or whatever. Everything was carefree and disease free. And I was just like, you know what, fuck it. I'm just gonna go to the movies by myself on a Sunday. Like Like I didn't even change out of my sweatpants. I just got in the car, left. I had the like Cinemark membership thing, so I had one of my free passes to use. Watched the movie, liked it, drove home, and then I'm reflecting on it a couple of weeks ago, and I was just like, wow, like that was 2020 training right there. Like sitting in a dark room by myself watching a movie in sweatpants.
Wow, yeah, you stepped right into it. Nicole, do you, and you know what, The Invisible Man, oh, well, I'll go back to it because that's part of my next question. Nicole, do you remember? It's okay if you don't remember.
I actually do remember because it was last night. I went to the drive-in and saw Wonder Woman 1984, which I enjoyed. Although I went with a guy and his car died, the battery died in the middle of it, so we missed a big chunk of the dialogue. So I got to catch it on HBO Max before it goes away in like a week. But
did you
I
enjoy
enjoyed it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it. It was, I hadn't been to the drive-in in like 11 years, so it was nice to get back out there.
Okay. Yeah. The drive-in kind of had a resurgence. Mike, have you hit a drive-in during this time?
I've been going to the drive-in like a lot. I didn't count that actually when you asked the question.
Nicole's smarter than us. Like Nicole is a critical thinker.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thinking outside the box.
Yeah. Yeah. We're like, no, yes, no.
Yeah, the drive-in had a big resurgence this year for obvious reasons. My friends and I were going like almost every week during the summer. And I'm still going every now and then because now they're actually showing new releases. In the summer, they didn't really know what to do with all the like movie delays and stuff, so they were just showing like classics, and
yeah,
so go and watch like Indiana Jones and just all these we just go hang out, all go in our separate cars, stand in a big circle with our masks on before the movie. Like, it was like a really nice thing to be able to do in like June, July, when it was all kind of like the antsiness of the isolation was getting to everybody.
Do you sit in the car or do you like take a lawn chair and sit in front of the car?
Depends on the time of year, depends on how crowded it is.
Okay.
I'm usually just especially now, I'm usually just in my car. But yeah, especially in the hotter months, like we used to just bring chairs, sit outside. I usually bring a little radio so I don't have to like hope my car doesn't die.
Oh,
that's a very good idea.
There you go. What was so when the lockdown went into effect, The Invisible Man was actually the movie I wanted to see. Like that was the next movie that I was like, man, I cannot wait to go see this in the theater because and then they immediately released it to video on demand. But here's where like I'm kind of like mad at I don't know. Then this is kind of like what started the whole question that we're gonna try to get to is that like they released it video on demand. I really, really wanted to see it, but I didn't want to spend $20 on it. And I was like, I would easily spend that much if I went to the theater. Well, because you end up, I always end up buying something in the theater, and the tickets usually like $10. What was there a movie you were looking forward to seeing right before the pandemic ended, or right before the pandemic started, and that got taken away from you? Was there any movie like that? Do you remember? Either one of you?
Nicole, you want to take this first?
Sure. Probably the one for me, like not right after, but I really wanted to see Tenet. So, but I think I want to see that at home almost where I can put on subtitles. I heard it's kind of hard to hear at some points. So yes. That's my plan.
Yeah. I second that idea.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was very hard to understand. I was really looking forward to the new James Bond movie. And that one just got completely delayed. Like they didn't do like the limited run, they didn't do the video or anything. It's maybe coming out this April, but that was the one I was really looking forward to. It was supposed to come out last April.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was the first movie that I remember an announcement of a delay for, and it was delayed to November, or no, August. I don't know. They were very optimistic at first.
Right.
And I remember, because this was before, like, I think it was before the, country decided to shut down. I remember seeing that news come out and I was just like, oh man, like that's interesting. Like, because, again, like the world had not stopped yet. And I was just like, they think people don't want to go to the theater. They want to have their like numbers to brag about. That's annoying. Oh well. And then later it was like, oh no, this is really happening.
Yeah.
Um,
So what do you? Oh,
go
sorry.
go for it. Go ahead.
I have a random kind of off-topic question, but so what are your guys' thoughts too? Like, you know how Disney Plus did the thing where you'd have to pay like $30 to watch Mulan?
Yes.
Do you guys know anyone who paid that? Because I sure don't.
I don't
I think I know a family, like I think my sister paid the $30, but like she's a retired grandma and she was having her grandkids over for the
Oh yeah.
weekend. So I think they did it for their movie night because they always had movie nights on the weekends. But
Yeah.
that's the only I can't remember anybody. Mike, do you?
I do not know anybody personally who paid the $30 to watch Mulan. I definitely have thoughts on that though.
What's your thoughts on that?
Well, because like you said a few minutes ago, like $20 is just too much for you to rent Invisible Man to watch at home, right? Even if you might pay that at the theater. My thought is, I just think $20. Yeah, I agree. Like for one person watching a movie at home, that's too much. Like at least with the theater, you're getting, the big screen, the big sound system, the shared experience of, everybody's like emotional levels being influenced at once. Like scary movies seem more suspenseful, comedies seem funnier. Um, you're missing out on all of that. But if you're like a dad who's gonna like take his wife and kids to the movie, $20 is a steal. Like
Yes.
normally once you get like
Mhm.
the tickets and the popcorn and the soda, you're paying like $50, right? But and I think that's why, like, way back when all this started, like the first like really big success for a movie that pretty much released like in this home situation was Trolls 2, I think. Like that made an insane amount of money from these home rentals. And I'm like, well, yeah, because like all these parents were like, this is perfect. I don't have to get the kids out, into the theater, don't have to pay for all this money. Like that kind of situation, like your grandma doing like the home movie night, that's exactly where the money is for, and where the justification is for these prices.
I
The launch
think
thing though, I thought was kind of ridiculous because it's like, it's not only is it $30, it's $30 on top of a subscription service you're already paying for. Like that
right.
should be that should be $15, maybe $10.
Yeah.
And not only that, but if you just wait a couple months, that they just put it on Disney Plus for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's $30 to watch it a couple months earlier on a thing you're already paying for. And I'm like, well, I'm sure they're gonna make some money off that, but like that's interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think that had a lot to do with like forcing HBO Max to do the included on the subscription with all of the upcoming Warner Brothers releases? They were like, adults obviously aren't going to pay on top of a subscription. How much of an influence do you think that had on that?
A lot.
I agree.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, go ahead.
I was like almost offended, like when I saw the $30 thing for Mulan. I don't know. I just found it kind of off-putting.
mhm. Um, you know, I was kind of looking into how all this was playing out just because I found it so interesting. Uh, Back when, the whole Trolls 2 thing happened, and they were like, oh, this is just going to go straight to on demand. The theater chain AMC, who kind of like, they're like the biggest theater chain in the country. So they have a kind of like a history of throwing their weight around whenever things try to like change the industry. Like, they wouldn't play ball with Movie Pass, that kind of thing. They announced that they were not going to show any Universal movies. They were like, okay, well, we're not showing any of your movies because of this Trolls business. And within a couple months they were like, just kidding, because like, you know, they didn't know what was going to happen. They didn't know like the shifting landscape. And you know, with the whole HBO Max thing with Warner Brothers saying like we're gonna we're gonna what's the word, like at the same time, you know, release
Coincide, or
yeah,
I'm
like
just throwing words in there.
yeah, concurrently, yeah,
Yeah.
release things in theaters and on HBO Max. That was because like Tenet underperformed so insanely because Christopher Nolan was being such like an auteur where he was like naming all his demands for how the release of his movie had to be, and then the movie severely underperformed, and Warner Brothers was like, well, we're not doing that again, let's panic and release everything on HBO Max.
But it's too bad that the test had to be with a Christopher Nolan film,
and
you know, because like that's like a Christopher Nolan film is like, I think you said it earlier, or we may have been talking. I remember you were talking about when you saw Mission Impossible on the IMAX, and like, there's really no other way to see a Christopher Nolan film. A lot of times, like the Christopher Nolan film, like it needs to be seen on the IMAX. So for the for a Christopher Nolan movie to be the test, it's kind of too bad, you know.
mm-hmm, for sure.
Yeah.
So where do you think this is going to leave us going into 6 months from now? I'm a big fan of streaming from home. I'm all for it. Like, if I never have to, reading the people's comments the other day. Okay, so going into this originally, I was like, if I never have to step foot in a movie theater again, I will not be heartbroken. If I can pay 20, 30 bucks to stream a movie at home on the night that it opens, and I could invite a couple friends over, and especially if we can find a way to like simultaneously start the movie at the same time and pause it at the same time, I'm all for it. How about you guys?
I you want to go ahead first, Nicole?
Oh, sure. Sorry, I feel like we keep talking at the same time, so I'm like,
Yeah,
wait
we
for it,
keep
wait
trying
for
to
it.
like
Yeah.
wait.
So my friends and I have a standing thing, and Jesse is actually in this group chat. And Mike, if you'd like to join, you're welcome to. I'll add you, and if you want to join the movie group, you can.
Totally.
We watch movies every Saturday night, and usually my friend Scott picks some like abomination on Amazon Prime. Like we watched Beastmaster last week, and we start it all at the same time in our own homes. We just chat through Messenger. It's really fun. It's kind of like being with your friends during a pandemic. I'd be more than happy just doing that and not going back to the theater.
I've been like streaming a lot of movies at home this year. And you know, I love doing that. I could do that, you know, forever. But I will be really disappointed if I don't at least have the option in the future to go back to a movie theater for those movies where I really want that big experience, you know, like, I'll watch, you know, horror movies, period dramas, like, you know, whatever at home. But if I'm going to watch like the new Mission Impossible, the new Fast and the Furious, or even a movie like, I don't know, like I still haven't seen 1917. I could have streamed that year. But
It's
like,
so good.
yeah, there are some movies that like I really, really want to have that big screen and that big sound system, you know? And again, just that shared experience. Like, I mean, you know, come to think of it, there are very few movies that I think wouldn't be enhanced by watching it on a big screen with a bunch of people. That being said, there are plenty of movies that I would be perfectly willing to watch at home. Does that make sense?
No,
Yeah.
that makes sense. You know, one of the things that somebody in one of the comment threads that I started the other day said, and it really made a lot of sense, is that they think that the studios are hesitant to allow the big movies to debut at home, because I think we kind of saw it on Wonder Woman. It's a lot easier to critique and nitpick a movie when you don't have all the distractions of a movie theater, right? So like when you're in a movie theater, like the whole thing, even the commercials leading up to the movie, they're all telling you how wonderful and great a feeling you're about to experience at this Cinemark movie theater, you know? And you take that away from a movie at home, and it's the story and the movie. That's all that's left. And I think it's a lot easier to pick it apart. What I think the studios might be like, I don't know, we're getting more bad reviews.
Can I ask a random question of both of you? If you had the choice, well, I guess you would with Wonder Woman 1984, it's like, and you couldn't see it in the theater, would you rather see it at the drive-in or would you rather see it at home?
That's a good question.
I think I still would rather see it at home.
Hmm.
I think it totally depends on the movie. Because I really like doing both. I guess I would rather see it at the drive-in if I wanted to make it like a social experience. And the reason I say that is the most recent new release that I saw at a drive-in was Promising Young Woman. And I actually just went by myself to the drive-in on the spur of the moment to go watch it. And I really enjoyed the movie, but it is easily a movie I could have just streamed at home, but it wasn't available to stream at home. I was like, okay, I guess I'll go to the drive-in.
Was it good? Was it worth it?
Oh, it was great. I loved it.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, so the anti going to the movie thing was totally my opinion, like on Wednesday whenever I posted that chat thread. But then seeing what people were saying, like, and I think like the movie that keeps coming back to me, that I'm just like, there's no freaking way I'm gonna see that anywhere but in a movie theater, and I want to sit right in the middle, and I want it to be so loud that it makes my nose bleed, is going to be Top Gun Maverick. Like, there's absolutely no way I want to see that at home. I want to see that in the movie theater. I want to feel the theater rumble from the jets, you know. What about you, Mike? I'm sure that's where you want to see. Is it Top Gun Maverick? What are they calling it?
Yeah, I think it's Top Gun Maverick. Yeah, I definitely want to go see that one. And because I wasn't even alive when Top Gun came out, the first one, and but I'm aware of like the legacy of that movie, and like it made people want to like join the military, and like it was just a huge phenomenon. And like for years and years and years after, from what I've heard, like that was the movie that like electronic stores would put on the screens in order to show off the sound systems they were trying to sell. So I was like, you know what? I really need to see Top Gun Maverick in a theater just to get like a small sliver of like, like by proxy, getting that experience of like what it must have been like to, just kind of feel the rush of Top Gun in the theater.
Yeah.
And I'm not even a big Top Gun guy. Like the movie's all right.
No, the movie's great. Hey, little Top Gun trivia: Matthew Modine turned down the role because he felt it was just like a grab at something patriotic, and he wasn't about the politics.
Mm-hmm.
And I could be wrong, but I want to say he turned it down in order to do the Kubrick film. Shoot, what's the Kubrick film that he's in? Matthew Modine.
I'm going to a Wikipedia.
Yeah, I can't believe I can't remember it right now.
I can't believe you can't either.
Wait, Full
Metal Jacket.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Full Metal Jacket. I want to say he turned it down to do Full Metal Jacket.
Still not a bad choice.
Yeah, not a bad choice, but yeah. Nicole, Top Gun Maverick, where do you want to see it? Why? Where? How?
I'm not a huge Top Gun fan. What year did Top Gun come out? The original?
1987, I think.
Okay, I was alive when it came out, but I was 3 years old. I don't know. I was never a huge Top Gun fan. I'll probably see it on demand at some point.
Wow. So you're not even a release that week. You're not. You're not excited at all for Top Gun.
A little bit, maybe.
No, that's okay. Now you're just lying to me. No, that's okay.
Okay. I'll try to get more excited for you. Okay.
What about Avatar 2?
I never even saw Avatar 1.
What?
And that's something that I like actually do like. I mean, regret is a strong word, but like I really wish that I had seen it in the theater with the 3D and everything, because like that was like a cultural event. I mean, it's not necessarily something that's like, oh man, that was the greatest movie ever, but like where movie technology was at the time, like that was kind of like a big milestone. Mm-hmm. And I wish I'd experienced it, and I never saw it.
Nicole, Nicole, do you
I'll
have a
probably see it
movie?
at some point.
Nicole,
Sorry.
do you have a movie you regret not seeing in the theater?
Uh, okay, so I'm more of a horror movie fan, as you know, and probably the one I would regret not seeing in the theater is Hereditary.
Ooh,
Mm.
Have
that's
both
a
of you
good
guys seen it?
movie. Yeah, that's a
Yeah, yeah.
great movie.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna wax poetically about movie theaters and how much I love them and seeing them in the theater. So I'm younger than all my older brothers and sisters, and my sisters would go on dates and they would go see movies, and then the next day they would tell me about the movies, right? And I can remember my sister telling me about watching The Shining in the movie theater, and I can remember her telling me about that the whole crowd was chanting "Run, run, run" when he was chasing him through the snow, and I'm just like, God, that must have been so awesome to witness that in the theater, you know. But here's my big movie theater regret, and I'm gonna show my age. Well, you guys all know I'm way older than you, kids. And it's also going to show what a freaking snob I've always been. That when I think I know what's right. I don't know what year it was, but all of my friends were going to go see Tombstone at the movie theater, and they were talking about how great it's supposed to be. And I said no, because Kevin Costner is making a movie about Wyatt Earp, and it's going to be released later on this year. And I'd rather see the Kevin Costner version than this version of Tombstone. And I did not go see it in the movie theater. And they saw it in the theater. They still talk about how great that night was, but I think they talk about it more just to talk about how stupid I was. No, I want to see the Kevin Costner version. So Tombstone is my big regret that I never saw in the movie theater.
And see, that's really interesting that you like the story you had about that, because you didn't really talk that much about the movie. You talked about the social experience of like, being there with your friends and like, missing out on that opportunity. And, I think that's why ultimately like the theater industry is not going to be in too much of a bad place, once the world opens up again.
Yeah, because going to the movies, especially for me, like I love going and seeing a new release on the Friday night. And I especially loved when it was a comedy, right? I especially loved when it was an urban comedy, because that is the funnest crowd to see a movie with. And even not even a comedy, but probably two of the funnest nights I ever had in a movie were the second Friday movie coming out in the theater was just a freaking party in the theater.
I saw it
And
in the theater too. Yeah.
and the NWA movie, Straight Outta Compton, the theater Friday night, absolutely packed, electric audience, everyone singing along to every song, and it was just it's just so much fun. That I'm gonna, and I think that so I think so. Going back then, Friday, if like Roger, like next Friday, Roger Ebert would probably tear it apart as to like all of the flaws with it, right? And would you want to see it in your house on a new release night, or would you want to see it in a packed theater with that fun audience on a new release night? Like I would pass on it at my house, and I would not spend the $10, but I definitely would anytime in the theater,
For sure.
And how about the new Candyman? That I'm super excited for when that comes out.
Jordan Peele.
I'll definitely be watching that.
Yeah, Nicole has made me a huge fan of Jordan Peele, and really like, I'm like funny with horror movies. Like, I love to be scared, but I'm scared to be scared. Like, but I will go see a scary movie anytime Nicole says. Like, I'm just like, I'm down. It's so much fun. We saw the creepiest movie. Lighthouse still.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a trip.
Lighthouse still. I'm like, I'm uneasy. Like, like anytime, like, I don't know, I can't do it. I haven't been on a boat since.
That movie is so good. I love watching movies so much that like when I'm not in like analyze mode, I just get completely like lost in it. And every now and then I'll get these little like snaps back to reality where like I'm watching The Lighthouse and I'm watching the scene where it's like just one shot on Willem Dafoe like delivering that like pained monologue as he's being like buried alive and like dirt's hitting him in the face and getting in his eyes and mouth. And I'm just like watching this. And then there's like half a second where I'm like, he's doing this. Like there's a set and like there's like a director and like someone's throwing dirt on him and, and it just made me appreciate like, man, like these people are suffering for their art. And like
Yes.
and like, just to bring us that experience, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, all great artists will suffer for their art, right? Even
Yeah.
like even writers and stand-ups and all great artists will suffer for their art. When I did the polls on Facebook and Instagram, and again, like what I quickly realized is like Facebook let them say yes or no and say why yes or no. But on Instagram is like I really had to word it and give them either this answer or that answer, you know? So on Facebook, it really seemed that like people still cherished the movies, but they were able to like describe why they would rather go to the movie or why they wouldn't want to go to the movie. Mike brought up the point of like the parents were like, fuck yeah, I'll spend $20 and have I think Corinne Lemke was the first one. I was like, yep, $20. I'm staying we're staying home. We're all watching movies, you know.
Yeah, she's got 5 boys in her household.
Oh, good God. Yeah.
That is the most
Including her
gorgeous
husband.
family in the world, the Lemkes. I hope I'm
Yeah.
saying their name right. The nicest people too.
Yeah.
I love them. I get so excited. I was telling somebody the other day, I was like, I don't think I've ever known her when she's not pregnant. And it's like, and I have my fingers crossed every time, like, please let it be another boy, please another boy, and it's another boy. I love it. Yeah. So she said like easily, you know, but I think it's coming down to that it's the movie. If we're given a choice, if it's the big blockbuster summer movie, I think we want to go see it in the theater. But I think if it's like one of the movies that Mike mentioned, where like, oh, it's kind of like a thinker, it's kind of like, you know, I want to watch it at home. You know, do you think that's what it's going to be going forward? But do you think that the theaters are going to go along with that?
By go along with that, what do you mean?
Like, is it going to come down to like money? Like the theaters saying, no, it's going to be this way or that way,
Oh,
or
I see.
like because they're losing money on the concessions every time, you know, like I think the studios are going to be fine with it, but it's going to be like the theater chains that are like, we're not good with this. And how you said earlier that, you know, cinema, was it Cinemark that you said, or AMC said, we're not going to show Universal films. Like,
Yeah.
could we be back in that position?
Well, you know, the like this is one of those things where like anecdotally, you know, people will talk about like their own personal experience, like who even goes to the movies anymore? You know, or like but at the end of the day, this is like a $30 billion industry, you know, and like there is like you would think that maybe like movie theaters were even like losing money the last few years. You know, up until COVID times, they were only making more money every year. And the international market is just getting bigger and bigger, like a bigger piece of that pie every year. Like huge like blockbuster movies will be affected at like, you know, the production level in terms of like how they're going to market it and how they're going to make it and what the rating is going to be specifically for like the international market.
Mm.
Like I know that like Venom, even though that movie did not do super well here or was very critically acclaimed here, it made like hundreds of millions of dollars in China. So like, you know, that industry is never going away and it's totally going to come back. And, you know, whatever like changes to the landscape happens, like the movie theaters, they're going to adapt. I remember when MoviePass came out, which was just the worst business decision, but it was one of those things where it was like, because they were just a company where they're like, join our service, it's $10 a month, and you get unlimited movies that entire month. And I'm like, okay. So some billionaire who's like working on his new company here, he's like buying coconuts for $10 and selling them for 50 cents. Like, he's gonna fail, it's gonna fail, but I am totally on board to like get on this and use it until he goes out of business. And I did, and it went out of business. But for a while I saw a bunch of movies and it was great. I didn't really understand what they were going for, because that's an insane business proposition. But what they were trying to do was they were trying to get their consumer base to a point where they had such a huge amount of people subscribed that they were able to like strong arm the theater chains into cutting deals with them. And that's how they were going to like be a sustainable business. But that never happened, because AMC was the first theater chain to be like, you want to do what? No, screw that. We're going to do our own MoviePass. And they did their own service, and they did really well with it. We don't have AMC theaters in the Sacramento market, so I didn't do that, obviously. But when Cinemark started doing their own subscription service, I got on that, and that is a pretty good one. It wasn't as good as MoviePass, but MoviePass was ridiculous. Nothing's going to be as good as that.
Yeah. But remember when MoviePass like kind of like gave in towards the end, and like they raised it to like $25, and then you had to like be in the theater in order to buy the ticket, or like at least like right by the theater before it would allow you to buy the ticket.
Yeah, they really turned into a really crappy situation when they were struggling, because initially it was just free for all, like, any movie, anytime. And they were just losing so much money that they sort of like, flipped a switch and activated this clause in their agreement where they were like, we can, restrict these options anytime we want. And they were doing it for like the big releases, Friday night, Saturday night. And yeah, you're right. You had to be in the theater to get it. I remember my friend and I wanted to go see Mission Impossible, and we were in my apartment here in Sacramento, and we were like, okay, it's showing in an hour in Folsom, because it was like kind of already going out of theaters. I'd already seen it, so we drove all the way to Folsom. Got there, I pull up my phone, and it's like, you can't get this now. And I'm like, okay, thanks, MoviePass. Yeah, what ended up happening was like they were restricting how you could use it, because like I said, they were losing money. Effectively, if you had a job where you could go to the theater a lot at like 11 a.m. on a Tuesday or whatever, MoviePass was still great. I did not have that option, so I effectively wasn't really able to use it, and so I canceled it.
Right on. Nicole, you weren't a MoviePass subscriber?
I was not. I mean, I have a day shift, where it's like Monday through Friday, like usual hours. I'm in the office, and so yeah, it wasn't anything that would have been super beneficial to me, especially when the restrictions rolled out.
Yeah. Nicole and I were strictly weekend movie goers, like Friday night, Saturday night, maybe a Sunday night if it was early enough. Like,
I think maybe one Thursday we went early too.
Yeah. Because I still need my 8 hours sleep, or I'm just a big old grouch. Man, you guys, I think we covered a lot of stuff. We didn't really get a definitive answer, but there's no definitive answers anymore to anything. Like there's only speculation of like, well, this might happen. It could happen. I don't know. We'll see. It happened. But it's kind of like, I just wanted to get together with a couple of folks who I knew absolutely love movies as much as I do, and had opinions on movies as much as I do. And I think we did what we wanted to do. Did we forget to talk about anything you guys want to say before we before we end this, your final thoughts on like what do you? I guess we know I want to go see Top Gun. Nicole, you want? Okay, so like I want this to be over in time to see Top Gun. Like, what do you want this to be over in time to see in the theater? Did you?
Candyman.
Yeah.
So everybody, please, get vaccinated, socially distance, wear masks so we can all get back outside. Sorry, that's my PSA.
Do you know when Candyman is coming out?
No, but let me go to a good old Wikipedia.
Okay, we'll let you do that while Mike says what he's hoping this is over in time for.
I really want to be able to see the next Mission Impossible movie in a theater, because the last 3 that I saw in theaters, like those were probably like the most fun I've had in theaters in a long time. Like just eyes wide, edge of my seat. Like, yeah, I gotta see those on the big screen.
Yeah, you know what I think was probably the last movie that did that to me in the theater was for that style was Mad Max Fury Road.
Yeah.
Oh man, I remember seeing that in the theater. I saw it twice in the theater. The second time I went because I wanted my friend Yvonne to see it, and when we were not you Yvonne, no, I thought you were Yvonne. Anyway, you have a sister named Yvonne, huh? That's why I messed up. Anyway, Yvonne, I went with my friend Yvonne, and when we were walking out, she said there was a 20-minute. There was a 20 minutes in there where I didn't blink. She was just glued to it. Like, oh man, when's Candyman coming out, Nicole?
August 27th.
Oh, we got this. We got this. Yeah, definitely, man. I look forward to getting the vaccines and like getting back to some semblance of normal. I'm dying to go to the Sacramento Comedy Spot on a Friday night and buy the Friday night or the Saturday night pass. You know, where you get to see all the shows. It'd be nice if I was on one of the shows during comedy. Then I would just hang out the whole night. Or if telenovela is done there on a Friday night. Yeah, thank you, Nicole. Tell me, hey, here's our trophy we won for best recurring Friday. What was it? Best recurring 10:30 show. And this is a practice ball from Dodger Stadium. Like it's got scuff marks on it.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's authentic.
Is there anything to plug? Nicole, you got some shows going on, right? You're still doing.
Yeah, I do Capital Punishment around once a month. You guys should watch it every Tuesday night at 8:30 on Twitch. And then, Willie Listen's coming back to the Stab stream soon, and I have a little free library at my work. You should check out my social media, and I can let you know where it is.
Oh, do you need books?
All my plugs. At some point, I will. Right now, it is shut down because of COVID. Okay. I'm hoping to open very soon, but thank you. I will get in touch with you about that. So
okay, Mike, you got anything to plug? What are you doing these days?
Well, first of all, I'll say watch Capital Punishment, and if anybody knows what I think about puns generally, that is quite an endorsement from me. But, yeah, I mean, I'm not doing too much these days show-wise because of, obvious reasons. I do a show at the Sacramento Comedy Spot, live streaming every Saturday at 6 called Comedy Spot Squares, which is essentially Hollywood Squares on a Zoom call. People can watch that and be the contestants on it, and it's pretty fun. One thing I'd like to plug, just for my own selfish purposes, since we're talking about movies here, I've been making like little miniature like stream of consciousness reviews on every movie I've watched since quarantine started on my Letterboxd account, which is just like kind of like a social media site for movie watching. I am not a film critic. I will never like delude myself into thinking I am, because I just like everything too much. But if you want to see my thoughts on movies, you can follow me on Letterboxd at letterboxd.com/gauchoback, like the UCSB Gauchos, GAUCHOBACK.
I'll post the link for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
it's just a fun thing I like to do. It's mostly for me so that I don't like bug everybody in real life with my thoughts on movies. But if people want to like go and see what I'm watching and what I thought of it, that's where I like to put it.
Mike, I really like your post that you do where you do the 4 movies. What do you do? 4 movies, or like your latest 4? That post you do?
Yeah, so on Letterboxd, like on your profile, like the last 4 things that you watch will be like in your profile, like the little posters for it. And I just kind of screen crop that and put it on my Facebook with a link to my profile. So it's just kind of like a little visual representation of the last 4 movies I watched and my star ratings for them. And yeah, and then sometimes they get like discussions going in my Facebook feed, which I think is pretty fun.
Nicole, Mike agreed that Blinded by the Light was a great feel-good movie.
Yeah,
That was a really good one.
was.
Yeah, is that the one? Did we both ugly cry just by the end of that movie, where it was just like,
Yes. He was like, oh,
it was such a good movie, man.
so good.
All right, guys, thanks for coming on the podcast. We'll wrap it up there, just under an hour. That's what the folks want. And thanks for coming on, and I will plug your social medias for sure.
Yay.
Yeah, thanks, Jesse. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. Great conversation, guys. All right.
Thanks, Nicole.
Thanks a lot.